Hey, y'all. Time for another episode of Ask Unbreakable Anything. Let's do our disclaimer. I am not, nor will I ever claim to be an expert, a mental health professional, or a know-it-all. I am simply a very vocal survivor. Very vocal. I share my experience, my strength, my hope. I share my story. I share my ups. I share my downs. I share my own toxic traits. I share my struggles. I share my admissions. I share my joys. I share me. So let's get started. Why do children who were abused by their parents end up in abusive relationships? That's a good one. It's a really good one. And this time, I'm going to use a prop. Okay? I am not promoting or marketing, but if Nike wants to, contact me. It's one of my AF1s. Love my AF1s. I have several different colors. When we're little, we're taught how to tie our shoe, right? Right? And many of us were taught to tie our shoe like that, right? Someone taught us. More than likely, our parental figures taught us how to tie our shoe. Others, I've seen, I don't know if I could do this. I think that's how you do it, right? Like that, right? Others, I don't even know if this one stays. Like that, right? There's all these different ways that we're taught how to tie our shoe, right? We all have to learn that when we're young. But what if we're taught, doesn't matter how you tie it. I'm not going to teach you, figure it out on your own. I had to learn on my own. You need to figure it out on your own. What if we were taught, you know what, you're never going to get it right anyway, so why bother? Don't bother me with that. Many of us were taught, you know what? Shoes don't even matter. Just suck it up. Suck it up. Right? If you step on hot asphalt, if you step on gravel, if you step on glass, you're just going to have to suck it up. Don't cry. Don't cry. What if we're taught that? There are so many things that we are taught as a child by our parental figures, moms, dads, step-parents, grandparents, guardians, whoever raised us, essentially. And those lessons stick with us our entire life. And oftentimes those lessons that we were taught are severely traumatic. Severely traumatic. See, our body is created perfectly. This is what I believe. Our body is created perfectly. And with that, there is a protection mechanism in our brain that when something often is too traumatic, too painful, it will file that puppy back into the memory banks. And we won't even remember the traumatic events. Sometimes we remember them further down the line. Other times we don't. But that memory is still there. That memory still persuades our choices in life. Our brain protects us. When we have gone through these traumatic experiences, our brain protects us, especially when we're young. Because our brain realizes our body, our mind, our psyche, our emotions cannot handle this trauma that was inflicted upon us. Oftentimes, we're raised by parental figures who tell us we're not enough. Nothing we ever do is going to be enough. We know we're unloved. We know we're not even liked. We're oftentimes abused, neglected, abandoned. And those scars, those wounds, those traumas get filed away. Doesn't mean they're gone. Just because we can't consciously recollect any of these traumatic instances, they still play a part in the choices that we make throughout our lifetime, including relationships. See, I was taught by my parental figures that I was never going to be worthy enough to be loved or even liked. I was judged, I was put down, I was neglected, I was abandoned, you name it. I knew that I disgusted my mother just by existing. I knew that my mother viewed me as competition simply because I was a female, the only female out of all of my siblings. I knew that I would never be good enough. My mother always chased the almighty dollar. She married my father thinking she was going to get money. She married her second husband thinking she was going to get money. She only cared about perception and the financial perception of those around her. My first career was in social services. I worked with kids for 20 years. And it was never enough for her because I wasn't making money. Who makes money in social services? You don't do it for that. But it was never enough. And then I got into the financial industry after that, my second career, and started making really good money. It was still never enough. I knew that no matter what I did, I would never be enough for my mother. I learned at a very early age from the parental figures in my life that love hurts. That I have to constantly keep working towards being loved, that I have to constantly keep behaving and changing and acting the way that I think they want me to act so that they will show me some type of love and affection and caring and consideration. I learned to people please as a child. I learned that if I bought gifts for friends and loved ones, maybe then they would love me. Love hurt. That's all I knew. Now, of course, this is not a conscious thought that we have as we go into adulthood, right? We don't have these conscious memories or these conscious wounds. We don't always have those. We don't always recognize the association from the traumas of our childhood to the choices we make in our adulthood. I sure didn't. I didn't recognize that I had been groomed at an early age to accept abuse, to accept discard, to accept abandonment, to accept put downs, silent treatment. I had learned and been groomed at an early age that love hurt. That's all I knew. And that I was never going to be enough for anybody. So I needed to just accept whatever crumbs were thrown my way. Because, oh my God, I have crumbs. Oh, I'm so full off crumbs. I was groomed that way. So that upbringing of love hurts, I will never be enough, I have to continue being a people pleaser in order for people to love me, like me, want to be around me, want to spend time with me. And I have to buy relationships in order to be even remotely enough for someone. I'm a gift giver. Still am a gift giver. But I recognize where I have to set my boundaries now. But being raised knowing only that love hurts, I ended up in 2 abusive marriages. Because, again, love hurts. They woo us, sweep us off our feet with the love bombing. And we think, oh my gosh, I have never experienced something like this in my life. This has got to be what real love is. I am head over heels. Oh my Lord, they're the best person. They tell me they love me and I'm the best thing that ever happened to them. And they only want to spend time with me and they want to marry me. They want to spend their life with me. Only knowing that love hurts, we fall hook, line, and sinker. We're caught. So while it might catch us off guard when the abuse starts, when the toxicity starts, when the manipulation starts, the silent treatment, when all of those things start, while they might catch us off guard, we remember love hurts. And we know that this person loves me because of everything they told me and showed me and did for me in the beginning. So that's who I fell in love with. So as the toxicity continues to escalate and go through the relationship, we just remember that love hurts. And this is what love is. Because that's what the parental figures taught me in my lifetime. This is what love is. I have to earn your love and attention on a minute-by-minute basis. And if I don't behave properly, I will be punished according to your standards. Because I'm not enough. Because I'm not worthy. Because I'm not valuable. Because I don't deserve to be loved. Because I don't deserve your affection and your attention. Well, that's how it felt when I was a child. So this chaos in this relationship, it was normal. It's what I knew. It was chaos, but there was a security to it. Let's have real talk. There was a security to it. There was a familiarity to it. I knew it. I didn't have to worry about getting out of my comfort zone. I knew these things. This is how it works. Love hurts. Okay, I accept that. I'm just going to suck it up and take it. Because love hurts. Because in order for someone to love me and value me and appreciate me and want to be with me, I have to endure the pain, the abuse, the lies, the manipulation, the infidelity. I have to endure these things because this is the only person who's going to love me. They told me that, and I believed it. And love hurts. I learned how to tie my shoe one way as a child. One way. And I still tie my shoes that way to this day. That is how embedded that lesson is in my brain. I learned how to love one way in my childhood. That is the lesson I learned. That is what I was taught. That is how I was groomed. I learned that love hurt, that chaos is normal, that abuse is acceptable, and that you never open your mouth because love hurts. And this is as good as it gets. This is all I deserve. They told me I would never be enough. They told me I was never worthy enough of a healthy love. They never told me what healthy love was. I only knew that love hurt and that I was never going to be enough to deserve anything different than what I was getting. Chaos was familiar. I've talked about it before. The most recent abuser in my life was on a 3-day cycle. I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why. I don't care anymore. But he was on a 3-day cycle. 3 days of love bombing, 3 days of the silent treatment, 3 days of love bombing, 3 days of the silent treatment. And I learned that cycle. It was predictable. I knew when to shut up, behave, smile pretty, bend over backwards, do everything that I was told. Because after the 3 days is up, then I'll have my Prince Charming back. The love bombing. The one who I fell in love with. It was predictable. The chaos in my world was predictable. And so it was sometime after I got out and I started my healing journey, and I recognized just how hard this is to heal my traumas, to heal my wounds, to deal with my own toxic traits. I realized how hard it was. And I had the briefest of moments here and there where I wanted to go back. I never wanted to go back to the abuser. What I wanted to go back to was the predictability of it. Because I didn't have to think so hard. I didn't have to try so hard. I didn't have to exert so much energy. I knew what that 3-day cycle was. I knew how to read it. I knew how to deal with it. It was predictable. The chaos was predictable. Rather than opening myself up and ripping open these wounds of my trauma and processing them and digesting them and dealing with them and healing from them, I was so exhausted, so overwhelmed, feeling like I'll never get through this. I'm never going to heal from this. Can I please just go back? Because it didn't require thought. It didn't require energy. It was programmed in my brain. I knew how to behave, I knew how to act, and I knew what to expect. I didn't have to think hard. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to acknowledge my own toxic traits. I didn't have to have these wounds that felt like they were just re-traumatizing me. I didn't have to talk about the abuse when I was a child. I didn't have to talk about the things that these abusers put me through in my lifetime. I didn't have to feel. I wanted to go back to what I knew my entire life. But I didn't. And I won't. We tie our shoes because of what we were taught, how we were taught when we were young. And until we learn a different way to tie our shoes, we are going to consistently trip over our laces and end up face down all over again. Healing is hard, y'all. I don't sugarcoat it. I say it all the time. Healing is so hard. There are some days you just can't do it. I get it. Take a break if you need to, but you cannot give up. When we start to heal these traumas and these wounds that we carry through our lifetime, the people around us start to change. The people around us start to change. We start seeing things from a different perspective. We start seeing red flags, warning signs. We recognize what our triggers are. We know how to work through them. We know how to put ourselves into situations where we know we are safe, we are healthy, we are okay. And we know what situations to avoid, because either they're not healthy or we're just not at a place where we can face those situations yet. If you keep repeating the traumas of your past, you're going to keep getting the same relationships in your future. But the more we focus on ourselves and our healing, finding our value, finding our worth, recognizing who the F we are, everything around us begins to change. So why do children who were abused by their parents end up in abusive relationships? Because we haven't changed the narrative yet. We haven't reprogrammed those old records, that old coding. We have not rewritten it. But I promise you it's possible. That doesn't mean that every day is going to be bells and whistles and fireworks and unicorns and stars and confetti. It's not. It's going to be hard. But anything worth having is going to be hard. And I promise you, having healing, having self-esteem, having self-worth is worth every bit of it. If you're looking for a place where you can start really diving into your healing, I recommend you check out our subscription community. It's posted here in the comments. If you're struggling with your self-esteem, I recommend you go check out our Building Self-Esteem ebook. Never forget, you're not crazy and you are not alone. And trust me, I don't think there's anything you could say around these parts that would surprise me, including our own toxic thoughts. Change the people around you. Change your toxic thoughts. Follow that healing journey. Focus on yourself. It is worth it, and you are worth it. Y'all go be unbreakable.